I'd like to just quickly nod to the ranking member, Congressman Nagus, and your comments about bipartisanship. You know, you and I are interesting. We share a boundary. And while the politics might be very different on each side of this boundary, the geography is very similar. And we both deal with these forest fires in our district of great magnitude. And it's been an honor to serve as your co-chair on the Wildfire Caucus, and appreciate your leadership there. And I think one thing in particular I'd like to point out is your leadership in making sure that those who fight our fires are appropriately compensated. And just a moment of a shout out to these good men and women who oftentimes sacrifice their health and safety to protect us, to protect our property and our lives. And we've seen that in Utah firsthand. And so a big shout out to all of them. It's been said, and we all know that we don't have fire seasons anymore. We have fire years. And it's just a reality that we're facing. And this is particularly acute in the West and in my district. And clearly, we all know this, but let me point out that what we're talking about impacts water supply, air quality, recreation, ranching and grazing, and for many people, their way of life. And in just as many ways, this is important. I'd also like to point out that oftentimes we overlook the wisdom of people who live in these areas. And I think sometimes they can give us a lot of insight on how to fight these. I'm proud to support the chairman with this legislation. And Mr. French, just a couple of questions. I don't know, it does come down sometimes to partisanship and being proactive versus reactive in these fires. And can you just talk for a minute about where the sweet spot is on being proactive and what you would like to see us consider?
It is so much more efficient to the American taxpayer to reduce wildland fire risk in the forests and grasslands. I mean, you look at what happened in Texas this year. To do that preventatively, when you look at the rate of return versus the impacts that happen to a community from a wildfire, and honestly to our resources, it's a no-brainer to me. And I think sometimes we forget the broader consequences of getting our forests back into healthier conditions. The downstream effects of water, the number of users that depend on water from LA all the way up through most of California, like 50% of the groundwater that goes into municipal water supplies in the West originates from national forests. So I think we often think about just the impacts at a local community, but it's so much broader. It's the food we eat, it's the communities that depend on the water. And every time we lose the ability to deliver one of those, the costs are enormous compared to the investment of reducing that risk up front. So the sweet spot to me is our ability to recognize we have to continue our suppression work. We have to. But to make the right investments at the right scales, at the right pace, up front to actually make sure that these forests are surviving for generations to come. And right now they're at risk.
You know, one of the biggest problems in my community after a devastating fire would be the floods and mud debris that come down when that, and the erosion when that growth is taken away. If I can compel all of my residents to listen to this testimony today, and you have a moment to say to them what you would like them to do as residents in places that run up against these lands, what advice would you give? What proactive steps can residents take in prohibiting these fires?
Well, I'm going to answer it this way. I'm going to repeat to you what I told my own mother, who lived for years in Heber, Arizona, right out some very large fires, who, as I walked her property, loved the environment around her. But the reality was that very environment on her property and the adjoining property would cause her to lose her house. And so my advice to homeowners is look at your own property. Make sure that we are reducing the fire risks that you have right around your house. Do simple things if you can, or take advantage of what our fire safe councils and others are offering to harden your property. And then when you look at the surrounding lands, whether it is state, federal, county, or even private landowners, be a part of understanding what a healthy forest is. And most of our forests in fire-adapted areas right now, because we've excluded fires, and this is what I've told her, I'm like, that beautiful forest that you're looking at that you love is unhealthy. It's unnatural.
I wish I could let you go on a little bit more, but I am out of time, and so I'm going to yield, Mr. Chairman.